I don't think it's far-fetched for me to say that schools prioritize a wide range of subjects in hopes that their students will learn effectively. In recent years, it's been plain to see that this has caused a shift in what topics and skills schools focus on. This means that schools went from recognizing all aspects of education to really only recognizing those that support a more competitive educational environment. So because of this, there's a wide range of reasons or excuses that schools give to justify ignoring these skills. You know, to justify turning a blind eye to the students, begging them not to shut their programs down. To justify taking away the one class that creative students, in many cases, will use to let their creative juices flow. Art class. In a lot of these cases, you can watch as schools find loopholes in the policies that justify their reasons for ignoring a select group of students.
Jeepers! Velma, where'd you get that camera? Oh, you were saying the room of magic.
I think I speak for most creative students when I say canceling art programs and courses with the excuse of there being budget cuts, as goes like the common reasoning schools tend to give just to implement new STEAM lessons into regular classes, is not at all okay. To put this into perspective, this would be like taking the football away from the football team and then giving them a tennis ball and being like, yeah, go play. Budget cuts. Yes, schools, we get it. You have sort of, I guess, attempted to do something about these issues. But the way that most schools will go about addressing them make it clear that they likely don't understand the changes that really need to be made in order to solve this underlying issue. As a trait, creativity can open a door to a world of possibilities. In many cases, it can give students, or at least those who can foster their creativity, an advantage in many ways, including academically and mentally. Creativity can give students an advantage in terms of mental flexibility and adaptability. As explained by Finnish educator Pasi Sahlberg, creative students are generally able to come up with more original ideas than their less creative peers. They are also usually able to generate ideas in a wider range of fields and topics. This ability could be due to the idea that was best described by the group working at Frontiers in Psychology. As they explained, creative adolescents tend to be more open to new experiences and experiencing being wrong. Whereas another student whose creativity maybe wasn't fostered as well would get frustrated and stuck when one method doesn't work, a creative student is more likely to break down and make changes to their methods before trying again. By allowing creative students to be just that, creative, and allowing their personal interests to connect to the task at hand, they may feel more in control and more accomplished whenever they complete a task. Another reason why schools should care about their creative students is that students whose creative needs are met tend to display higher order cognitive skills such as problem solving, critical thinking, as well as ability to connect subjects. Creativity overall can lead to better academic outcomes because it can help students use prior knowledge to connect and make sense of new subject matter in their classes. And this can help students actually absorb the information that they are taught in school rather than the outcome most students have learned to expect. As described by many of my peers over the years, schools make us feel as though we're only really taught this information so that we can do well on the next test, and then just be able to dump all that information we just absorbed out of our brains, because why would we need that when many teachers don't even reference the prior material after tests unless it's right before exams? Simone Ritter once said, "Creativity is important for innovation, everyday problem solving, and emotional health and well-being." Even if they don't believe it, by viewing creativity as a lesser soft skill, many schools are doing their students a huge disservice. Having some sort of creative education in place can help students develop better problem-solving skills. It's these skills that have the potential to help students avoid the temptation to cheat in school. The reason why there is less potential for this to happen is because of a point that I've already mentioned, which is creative thinking skills can help students utilize prior knowledge as it relates to the task at hand. Being able to do this is likely to stop students from waiting for the perfect moment when the teacher isn't looking so that they can slip their phone out of their pocket to look up the answer to whatever question they need to answer. Not only would this likely lead to overall rates of cheating decreasing, but this could also lower the rates at which students plagiarize and improve academic honesty, because creative thinkers are better able to generate more original and impactful ideas based on prior knowledge and new information. Realistically, the problem lies with the 21st century education system. While it has come a long way in terms of the quality of the education it provides, there are still many problems that exist within this system. And the first problem that I'd like to point out is that the 21st century education system is inherently competition-based. This makes it hard for creativity to flourish because it only really allows for elements of education that directly lead to like the highest test scores or the best technology. None of this, however, provides any time for creativity to thrive, which ultimately makes creative students feel less important than their peers who excel in this competitive atmosphere because their needs are met while the creative students all but get left in the dark. I feel like this could be attributed to the fact that schools don't really give any attention to the way that the traditional classroom doesn't really work for all students. By this, I mean that some students need to have that time for student-initiated talk because while yes, some teachers allow for students to chat quietly while they work, a lot of teachers will get frustrated if the noise level gets too high, which tends to be above a whisper, and this can make it hard for creative students that find it beneficial to talk out their thought process with their peers to get anything accomplished. Some students need to be able to move around in order to get their brain working properly. One of the key enablers of creativity is collaboration, which in and of itself implies movement. So when a traditional classroom setting would expect students to sit quietly absorbing whatever information is thrown at them, this can make it hard for students to be able to meet their needs and get their work done, thus hindering their academic progress. If students can't act on what they need to do to a certain extent in classes, then how are they supposed to meet the high standards that are being set for them constantly? Which brings me to my next point. Favoritism and inequality in schools. Ask any student in your average high school class if they believe there is any one group of students that are given special treatment by school staff, and I have a feeling that many of them will give the same response. The student athletes. While this doesn't necessarily mean that all student athletes get special treatment in school, it definitely seems like a lot of them do. There are also moments in school when the student athletes will heckle or even harass other students, and they will get off with a warning or a slap on the wrist basically for what they did. I feel like a lot of teachers turn a blind eye to this behavior because it's the student athletes. They need them to be able to win the next game, so they can't get in trouble. Schools further demonstrate this in the way that they distribute the budget for improvements in the school. For example, there have been things like TVs that PHS has installed that are meant to serve the school, but nobody really pays attention to them, so I don't really know why they put them in. There is also the new weightlifting room that they spend a ton of money on, and yet there are still classrooms that are running out of supplies that they need to do basic activities. And in a lot of cases, this makes it so that the teachers have to pay for the materials for their classes out of their own pockets. There are also cases of teachers having to use textbooks that are literally falling apart and moldy because why would the schools want to replace textbooks?